Close your eyes for a moment. No, really, I'll wait. Think about the oldest thing you own. Maybe a photograph, creased at the corners, browning at the edges. A grandparent's watch. A vinyl record. Whatever it is, hold that feeling. That specific, quiet weight of something that has survived time. Now, multiply it by 100 years. That's where you are right now. My name is not important. What matters is that I come from the year 2126, and I've been given, let's call it a gift, the ability to bring you here for the next 16 minutes. Consider this a postcard. Consider it a warning. Consider it, above all else, an invitation. You will not recognize everything. That's the point. You come from a year when people still carried 6-inch slabs of glass in their pockets just to talk to each other, and found this perfectly normal. A year when the oceans were rising, and the response from most quarters was, "We'll deal with it after the next election." A year when artificial intelligence was still something you were afraid of, rather than something you had learned, rather awkwardly, to have dinner with. None of that is a criticism. You were figuring things out. Every generation does. The remarkable thing, the thing that will startle you most, is not how much changed. It's how much you got right. Welcome to 2126. Try to keep up. The first thing you notice, before sound, before smell, is the color. Cities in your time were largely gray. Gray concrete, gray asphalt, gray winter sky pressing down on gray office buildings. The occasional tree was a municipal apology. In 2126, the cities are green. Not aggressively, performatively green in the way that building in your era would slap 3 solar panels on the roof and call it a revolution. Profoundly, structurally, biologically green. The kind of green that took 50 years of policy, biochemistry, and the occasional spectacular public failure before it became default. Here's what happened to the city as you knew it. In the 2040s, the concept of urban zoning, the bureaucratic idea that humans should live in one place and work in another and shop in a third, finally collapsed under its own absurdity. Mixed-use vertical communities became the global standard. Your commute didn't shorten. It mostly ceased to exist in any meaningful sense. The ground floors of most towers are porous now, open to street life, to parks, to water features fed by atmospheric moisture capture. The skyscraper is no longer a monument to corporate ambition. It's a neighborhood that happens to be tall. The engineering behind this is, admittedly, staggering. Load-bearing aerogel panels, a material your generation developed but barely scaled, allow structures of astonishing height without the dead weight of traditional steel frames. The buildings breathe, literally. Passive ventilation systems modeled on termite mounds circulate air through living walls, maintaining interior temperatures without mechanical cooling in most climates. And the trees deserve their own sentence. By 2060, molecular horticulture had produced tree species with root systems capable of penetrating and stabilizing concrete. Trees engineered not to fight the urban environment, but to colonize it symbiotically. The cities didn't add nature as an afterthought. Nature rewrote the cities from the inside out. Not every city made it. Some were abandoned to rising water. Some were rebuilt entirely. New cities, planned from scratch on principles that your era's urban planners could only theorize about, emerged on 6 continents. The largest new city on Earth, built on elevated infrastructure above a former floodplain in Bangladesh, houses 11 million people and produces more energy than it consumes. Your great-grandchildren will find that unremarkable. That might be the most remarkable thing of all. Let's go inside. Not inside the city. Inside you. In 2126, the boundary between what you experience and what you process has become, to put it diplomatically, negotiable. The Neuralink revolution did not arrive with the dramatic, cinematic violence that your science fiction predicted. There was no single moment, no press conference where a tech billionaire in a black turtleneck showed the world a chip and changed everything. It arrived the way most revolutions actually arrive, incrementally, awkwardly, and about 15 years after everyone had declared it impossible. The current standard, what we casually call a lattice, does not replace your senses. It augments the interpretation of them. Your eyes still collect photons, your ears still vibrate to sound waves, but the lattice adds a layer, a persistent, consensual overlay of information that you can engage or dismiss the way you might glance at a window. You want to know who composed the music drifting from that cafe? The lattice answers before you finish forming the question. You want to understand the structural load capacity of that bridge you're crossing? It's there. You want to feel the weather in Sao Paulo right now, not just know it, but feel the humidity on your skin via haptic simulation. That is, somewhat controversially, also available. Here is the part of the tour where I have to be honest with you. You did not solve the climate crisis. Not in the clean, triumphant montage with uplifting music way your optimists hoped for. You adapted, you repaired, you sustained. And then, across several decades, in fits and starts, with enormous cost and some genuine tragedy, you began, incrementally, to reverse. It took longer than it should have. It cost more than it needed to. And a significant portion of the suffering in between was entirely avoidable. Future historians are not kind about the 2020s and 2030s. They are not unkind about the people. They are, however, fairly scathing about the systems. The turnaround came not from a single technology, but from a convergence. Let me give you three that mattered most. First, fusion energy. Humanity had been 30 years away from commercial fusion for approximately 60 years. Then, in 2041, a consortium of 12 nations operating the ITER Successor Project achieved net energy gain at commercial scale. The technology scaled somewhat unsteadily across the following 2 decades. By 2075, fusion provided 40% of global electricity. By 2100, over 70%. The carbon math changed. Not immediately, not painlessly, but it changed. Second, molecular biosequestration. The biological engineering revolution of the 2050s produced, among its many controversial outputs, a suite of engineered microorganisms capable of converting atmospheric CO2 into stable mineral compounds at rates several thousand times faster than natural carbon capture. Deployed in the deep ocean and in targeted desert regions, these organisms, controversial, debated, strictly monitored, pulled gigatons of carbon out of the atmosphere over the course of 40 years. This was not without risk. The first generation caused unforeseen disruptions in regional ocean chemistry. The second generation corrected most of that. The third generation, currently operating, is considered stable. Considered is doing considerable work in that sentence, and the scientists who study this will be the first to tell you so. Third, the political shift. This is the one your generation perhaps least predicted, and it is, arguably, the most important. In the 2040s and 2050s, a series of devastating climate events, not in abstraction, but in specific, televised, economically catastrophic detail, finally broke the political deadlock in most major economies. The insurance industry collapsed in certain coastal regions. Several major cities became functionally uninsurable. The economic argument for inaction stopped being an argument anyone could make with a straight face. What replaced it was imperfect. The global climate governance frameworks of the 2060s were messy, under-enforced, and riven with the usual geopolitical fault lines. But they were frameworks. They held. Barely, and then better. The climate of 2126 is warmer than the climate of 2026. That is a fact that still costs something to say. Species were lost, coastlines were redrawn, communities were uprooted. The Great Barrier Reef died and was, partially, painstakingly, artificially reconstructed. And the debate about whether that reconstruction counts as the same thing is still ongoing. But the temperature curve has at last turned. The oceans have stopped acidifying. The ice at the poles is, cautiously, beginning to recover. The atmosphere is healing the way a wound heals, slowly, with scars, but without question. Your descendants did not save the planet. The planet was never in danger. They saved, with considerable effort and at significant cost, their place on it.
Let's take a small detour. About 384,000 kilometers off-world. The Moon was officially the territory of no nation and 6 competing commercial interests until 2051, when the Artemis Governance Compact, 17 nations, 4 corporate consortiums, and one rather determined independent settlement that had simply been there long enough to assert squatters' rights, established the first functioning lunar administrative framework. It was not pretty. The legal debates about resource extraction rights, habitation zones, and the rather specific question of what to do about the settlers who had arrived early and started making plans without asking anyone's permission lasted 11 years. But it resolved. It had to. There are approximately 340,000 humans living off Earth right now as I give you this tour. About 31,000 on the Moon, mostly in Shackleton City and the 3 secondary settlements. Approximately 14,000 on Mars across 2 colony clusters in the Hellas Basin, where the atmospheric pressure is marginally less punishing. And several thousand more on various orbital stations, research platforms, and one somewhat eccentric luxury habitat in a stable Earth-Sun Lagrange point that charges the equivalent of a Zurich apartment for a 6-month stay. Living off-world in 2126 is not the life your science fiction imagined. It is not sleek white corridors and jumpsuits and earnest speeches about humanity's destiny among the stars. It is, in texture, remarkably mundane, and that mundanity is the miracle. People argue about lease agreements, school curriculums, which Earth streaming service has the best latency delay. The 20-minute communication lag to Mars means that Martian culture has evolved, by necessity, a distinct independence, a different relationship to Earth that is not quite pride and not quite resentment, but something new for which the language is still being invented. The transit to the Moon from Earth, a 4-day journey in your time via the Apollo missions, now takes 19 hours on the fastest commercial vehicle, a plasma ion tug that the passengers describe as comfortable, and the engineers describe as an engineering marvel, and the accountants describe as barely profitable. What does off-world living mean for Earth? More than you might expect. The technologies required for closed-loop life support, growing food with no waste, recycling water to near perfection, generating energy from minimal inputs, have, in the way that space technology always does, migrated back to Earth and changed how dense urban communities manage resources. The Moon taught cities how to close their loops. Cities are, slowly, learning. Here's what I want you to take back with you, across the 100 years that separate us. The world of 2126 is not a utopia. Poverty did not vanish. It contracted, slowly, unevenly, with stubborn holdouts. Disease did not end. It changed shape, and medicine changed faster. War did not cease. It migrated to new territories, new modalities, new justifications, the way it always has. Human nature did not improve. It adapted, which is perhaps the only thing it has ever done. What changed? And this is the thing that would most surprise you if you could spend a week here and not just 16 minutes, is the texture of daily life.
The baseline anxiety that defined your era, the low, persistent hum of existential threat that you were so accustomed to you'd stopped noticing it, is quieter here. Not absent, not banished, quieter. People in 2126 still worry. They worry about different things, some of them stranger than your fears, some of them achingly familiar. But they do not carry, beneath every moment, the specific weight of a civilization that suspects it might be failing. That weight is gone. You will have put it down somewhere between here and there. You asked 100 years ago whether it was worth it, whether the effort, the sacrifice, the compromises, and the arguments and the failed conferences and the technologies that arrived too slowly and the ones that arrived too fast, whether any of it would add up to something worth having. I'm standing in it. The answer is yes. See you in a century.